Hey everybody, it's Meta Warrior from Meta Warrior's Mental Madness. Today I'm going to be doing a review of the album Escape Room by Isphet which is a Slovenian uh, metal project. So the album is the band I would describe as not gent instrumental stuff like Animals as Leaders, but like it has a very like heavy down-tuned guitar influence in there, but it's not like that. And there's no real like metalcore influences or anything like that really either. So there's not like breakdowns and stuff. So I would almost say that maybe it approaches some of that stuff at times with somehow the guitars are, but it actually has almost like a Devin Townsend kind of influence to it. So the album is 7 songs and basically goes from it's kind of like there is kind of a formula there, but it's pretty cool. Starts with Fixated, which has like a very kind of angular riff, and goes to there's songs like that. It kind of has this thing where it'll begin very ambient, and then have the the ambiance go through the song with the heavy parts and everything like that. So uh, there's also I would almost say there's like a Philip Glass kind of influence in there too. And if you're not familiar with him as a classical composer who did a lot of minimalism, or something called minimalism with regards to his orchestral kind of thing. Which actually I think I have a couple albums by him somewhere in this pile of CDs, thousands of CDs that I have. So I like that influence in there. I can sense there's some type of stuff. I also heard like a lot of like the guitar tone kind of reminds me of Petrucci, especially when it comes to like the higher end kind of guitar stuff. So, and there's like the song "No Hearts in Here." Starts out with kind of the ambient guitars and keyboards, and then kind of a more groovy riff, and it kind of alternates in between the two, and then the third song, "Fails to Communicate," has come really heavy down tune riffs and some odd timings. And like I said, I think the gent thing, I think there's like it has to be like an 8 string guitar because it has that kind of tonality, but it's a lot tighter and less annoying to be honest, because a lot of gent leaves me dry honestly. So there's also some like funky parts to that song too, so that's pretty cool. And then like the fourth song, Prozac Nation, um, almost has like a synth wave influence, like with the arpeggios in the beginning, and then it goes to like more normal instrumentation. Cool bass lines. I really like the bass tone on there. It's kind of this distorted, kind of slinky thing, and I think that fourth song might be my favorite because it has this like dreamy, melancholic kind of feel to it, and then it almost has like a, I would dare say, a little tiny bit of mellow death, like with the guitar tones. But I'm just jaded because I'm comparing it to things that I know about. So um, that is probably my favorite, and I love synth wave and I love like those types of melodies. So that's probably my favorite song. The next song, Corridors, has that ambient direction, and then it's almost like this, like kind of takes you to the psychedelic kind of thing with it. Um, and then it it kind of has that formula of the ambient direction with the heavier direction at the same time. So, and then there's like a chugging kind of prog metal riff, to towards this or within the second half. And then there's Above the Clouds, and that has more kind of synth arpeggios, a little less synth wavy, but like it's a little more optimistic, that song. And it's kind of a major key kind of thing to it. It's pretty uplifting. And then Escape is the longest track and has a lot of cool different parts. And there's like a lot of cool bass part, like where there's just mainly bass and stuff. So overall, I think it's a pretty cool project. Like to hear what they have to do, what he has to do in the future. I think it's a one man band. So one of the things that I liked about it was that it's not very pretentious. Like what I mean is like a lot of bands will just stuff as many notes as possible nowadays, and I love a lot of tech metal and stuff. So that's the thing about it. Um, but it's like Devin Townsend has always been considered a progressive metal musician, but a lot of his stuff is pretty relatively simple if you really break it all down. It's just the fact that he puts these elements together that's more progressive. So that kind of has that feel to it. I'm sure there's there are other instrumental projects like that. Like Animals as Leaders might be an influence. Stuff like that. But there's not a lot of I think the gent thing is getting played out. So I welcome this kind of thing. He also lists new metal and u metal as an influence. I really don't hear it that much. There's very little new and u metal that I like. So, I mean, I guess maybe I'm jaded and it's just like it's a bias that I have. But I don't really hear a lot of that in this. But maybe the better ones, name the better ones. Maybe there is an influence in there, Deftones or whatever. I don't know. But I do like it. I think at times one criticism I'll have is it's cool. Like one of the things I got recently into again was the first Vinnie Moore album, which is a classic shred, album from the mid '80s. I love it. But one thing about that album is there is a formula to some of the songs, and I think this project there's a little bit of a formula, which is honestly like something that me as my own music does not have a formula really, and that's probably why some people could criticize some of my music. It doesn't have enough of that, but then there's some stuff that has too much of a formula, like AC/DC or something. This one is leaning towards a little bit of a formula with some of the songs, and while that's good because it puts you on the map, I think there could be like one or two tracks that kind of veer off, into that outside the box that is created on this album or with this music. That type of territory would be interesting in the future. That's just one criticism I have. I think that's the only criticism. There's not a lot of wank or shred really, which is actually refreshing. A lot of bands will just do string skipping throughout the entire song. I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of wanting to up the wank and the shred of my own music, but that's just my thing. But hearing every band do that nowadays, it gets a little old. It's a little old, especially when you have dime a dozen people are able to shred now because of YouTube and Guitar Pro and the availability of internet stuff like lessons and DVDs. There's so many out there that you can just learn to shred now. Anybody can pick up a guitar and shred, and this has a unique feel to it because there's not a lot of shred, quote unquote. It has that originality that is missing. I think it's going for an original sound. So overall, I would recommend it, and you could see a lot more reviews like this in the future. I'm going to put a link to the actual written review in the description of this video, and I would check this out. I don't know how to pronounce the name, Isphet. I think that's how to pronounce, and it's cool. I think one more note. I'm going to say the production is fucking killer. I'm kind of blown away by the production. I'm a production geek, even though I'm terrible at my own music's production pretty much. But, I'm a production geek. I love listening to mixes and masters. I'm like, oh, Andy Wallace did that, or Colin Richardson, or fucking, what's his name? Andy Sneap did that, or he didn't do this one, and that one's better. I like to break that apart and stuff. So the production on this is some of the best I've heard, like from a band like this. Like what I mean is like a relatively new project. Let me see. Do I have any more stuff? Like I said, relatively new project. The production is it's mind blowing. I mean, because it's all encompassing when you listen to it. I listen to it on headphones because, even though I have a noisy neighbor, I should have probably just listened to it on my speakers. But it's pretty cool. I love the production. I mean, the mastering, the mixing, just it's very three-dimensional, and that's, I've reviewed a lot of bands, and this is just like, it's just like, this sounds like Devin Townsend produced it or something. It's that good. So I definitely recommend this project. Check it out, and that's about all.